Do you want to know the one thing that you can do to increase the number of guests who come to your church? If you do, I'm going to tell you it's probably not something that you're thinking of. It's actually going to be something on your website that you need to change or add in order to draw more people into your church. Because quite honestly, searching for a church is super difficult. And for most of us who are pastors and ministry leaders, we don't get this. We think we get it, and we think we have an idea of what that looks like. But until you actually go through it the way I have for the last 6 months, you don't really understand what it feels like to look for a church. And I'm going to tell you today in this episode exactly the one thing you need to do on your website that's going to not only increase the number of people who come to your church on a Sunday morning, but it's going to increase the level of enjoyment and engagement that they have when they come. So let's get started. So the big question is this: how do pastors like us who remain focused on the mission of Jesus and serving our communities without being distracted by everything in the world around us, how do we increase our effectiveness while living a lifestyle that doesn't compromise our health, our families, or our personal relationships with Jesus? That's the question this podcast is going to answer. I'm Dr. Brandon Party Cooper, and welcome to the Ministry Hackers Podcast. Welcome to the Ministry Hackers Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're taking time out of your day to hang out with me, even if it's just for a few minutes. My prayer is that our time together is beneficial for you, is going to help you, is going to help you as a pastor and ministry leader live the dream life in ministry where you get to have a growing church, have a growing ministry, see God move in great and mighty ways, and at the same time, spend time with your family, hang out, have hobbies, travel, see the world, do the things that you dream of doing while still answering your calling into ministry. So that's why we're here. That's why we exist. I'm hoping that's why you're here with me today. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to talk about something that I have been going through for the last 6 months. And as I mentioned in the last episode, my wife and I moved our family, our kids, to Virginia Beach. And quite honestly, it has been an incredible experience. But the one thing that's been really hard, really difficult for us is finding a church home. Now, I've been in ministry for 20 plus years. And so our entire marriage, we have just gone to the church that I was on staff at. But moving here to Virginia Beach, I'm not going on staff at a church because I do this with you. And so we've had to search to find a church. And it's been really difficult. I'm talking, I've done ministry 20 years, and I thought I had an idea of what what looking for a church would be like and feel like. And even I thought I kind of understood what guests were going through when they walked through the doors of the churches that I served in. And we would always, as a staff, we would talk about, well, this is what we want to do and this is how we want to make them feel and all of these things. And quite honestly, I've been part of churches that do really great guest experiences. However, being on this side of things where I'm looking for a church, I'm looking for a church for my family, particularly looking for one for my kids that's going to be impactful, that's going to develop them and grow them. I have really had a hard time finding a church. My wife and I have been pretty frustrated looking for a good place to call home. Now, we have found a church and we are settling in and we're getting to know the people in the community, and it's been wonderful. However, one of the things that we have experienced over the course of our searching process is the experience of coming into church and how that feels and what that's like and the anxiety that we have. And when we have 3 boys, 8, 5, and 2, and we are wrangling them in to get them in and going through kids check-in and trying to figure out where is kids check-in, where's the kids area, where's the sanctuary. And we've had some pretty unique experiences coming here and looking at churches and attending them and figuring them out, and it's been challenging. And there's been one thing that I've thought multiple times: if they just did this, it would be so much more helpful. It would alleviate some of that anxiety. It would really make this whole process for me and my wife a lot simpler. And so that's what I want to share with you today. I want to share with you the one thing you can do that's going to make that whole experience way better for your guests. take away some of their anxiety, and quite honestly, is going to make it a lot more probable that they're going to come the first time, and more likely they're going to keep coming time and time after that. But before we do that, I want to invite you to take advantage of a free guide that I just created. I'm putting out because I have been looking for church homes and researching churches and looking at them. I've been on a lot of church websites, and I have noticed that a lot of church websites just have websites, but their websites aren't really working for them. And my question for you is your church website working for you? Is it actually doing something for you? Or is it just there? Because we all know if we have a church, we need a website. And so we just kind of throw something together and put it up. Or we have spent tons and tons of money on a website and it doesn't really do a whole lot for us. And if you're looking at your website and you're saying, it just needs redone, it needs revamped, or you're saying we don't have a website and we really need one, but I don't see the value in that or benefit of it, and so I've never really put in the energy. Well, what I want to do is I want to invite you to take advantage of this free guide that I just put together. It's simple, it's very focused. It walks you through step by step how you can create a church website that works for you in less than 30 days and in less than $150 a year. $150 a year, because I know there are a lot of options out there, people who can build websites for you, and they can be super expensive. And this guide is going to walk you through how you can build your own website, even if you're not a designer, even if you have no web experience at all. This is going to help you build the website that you need, that's not only going to exist so people can find you, but it's going to work for you so that guests can find their way to your church, so that your congregation, your faith community can engage and be with each other and know what's going on and have all the information they need to engage with your community. So if you're interested in that, it's a free guide, 30 days to your church website. All you need to do is go to brandonpartycooper.com/30-day website. brandonpartycooper.com/30-day website. You do that, go visit there, and you can download your free guide, and it will walk you through step by step what you need to do in order to have a website that works for you. All right, so what I want to talk to you today is about your website. And it's the one thing that you need to do in order to not only increase the number of guests who come to your church, but also increase the level of engagement and the level of satisfaction they have when they come. So as I mentioned, my wife and I, we've been looking for churches, and we've gone to several churches in this area. We've visited them, we've checked them out, we've met pastors, and we've met congregants, and we've shaken hands with greeters and ushers, and we've had a few odd experiences. One church we went to, we were there maybe 10 minutes, 15 at most, I think. And we ended up leaving for two reasons, particularly. Number one, there was something about the service that just felt off. We weren't clicking with it theologically. And then the second thing that we ran into was we went to the early service. They had an 8 and a 10. We went to the 8 o'clock service, and when we got there, after we checked in, after we had gone through the whole filling out the card and giving our name and everything else, at that point, then they told us, I'm so sorry, but we don't have any kids ministries during the first service. We have them second service, not first service. And so here we are, we have our 8, 5, and 2-year-old, and we take them into the service, and, worship was okay because it's loud, and, but it was pretty obvious pretty quickly that we couldn't stay. They offered us a side room that we could go into, like the mother's room, and we were there for a couple minutes, and we just said, this isn't really worth the effort. And so we just kind of packed up our crew and went out and had breakfast. And so we've had some interesting experiences along the way. And over and over again, the one thing that we realized is that kids check-in is difficult. And I have been trying to brainstorm how to make that a lot more efficient, a lot more effective, and a lot simpler. And the reality is it's just not that simple, particularly because you're dealing with kids and you have to have security elements, and that process is just, it just has to happen, and it takes a little bit. However, there are a couple things that I thought of that can make that, as well as several other things, a lot simpler. And when you package it all together, it all comes down to the one thing that we need to do, you need to do in your church, on your website, that will make this whole experience a lot better. And that is putting together a guest page on your website for guests to go to before they ever come onto your campus and walk into your sanctuary. And let me just kind of talk through that a little bit, because here's the thing: at the end of the day, the biggest thing, and again, my wife and I, we've experienced this because we're looking for churches. The biggest thing that we have when we're going into a new church is we don't know anything. We don't have any idea of how the church is laid out. We have no idea where we need to go and what we need to do. And some churches have great ushers and greeters. They have great people who are pointing the way and all of that. And some don't. Some have none whatsoever. There was one church that we walked into, and it was a decent sized church. I would say, I don't know, 500 to 800 maybe. And we walked from the door all the way. So the door we walked in was an off door. We walked in the door into the main foyer area. It was kind of a smaller foyer, and there were no real signage and no directions. And we stood there and we looked and we said, where in the world do we take our kids? Like, we had no idea. Nobody came up to us. Nobody introduced themselves. We just kind of stood there and I'm a little bit of I like to push buttons a little bit. So because as a pastor and as a ministry leader, I know kind of what this should look like. And so I kind of want to see how churches are going to respond. I want to see, is it, number one, are there ushers or greeters or anybody who is going to come and engage with us? Number two, if not, are there congregants who say, oh, look, they look like they're lost, or I've never seen them before? Are they going to come up and say something? Or are there any pastors in the area, if it's a church of, that's large enough to have multiple pastors, are any pastors in the area going to come up and introduce themselves? So I purposely kind of stand there looking around, looking lost, hoping that somebody would come up. Nobody ever did. And finally, we just happened to see somebody come in the same door that we did, and they went the other way, toting children. And we watched them. They went down the hall, and they went into a door, and we were like, I wonder if that's where the kids' area. And so we took our three boys, and we marched down that hallway, and sure enough, really big children's area. And so going through that whole process, it was just all this anxiety of like, where do we go and what do we do? And if there's one thing that I can convey to you as a pastor, looking at your guest experience and looking at your website and how you're preparing people to walk in your church on a Sunday morning, the one thing I could convey to you is the less ambiguity there is for a guest to have when they walk in, the more engaged they will be and the better their experience is. Reduce the ambiguity, increase the engagement. It's that simple. For my wife and I, there was one church that we went to, and there was an online page with lots of information, help us to know exactly what we were walking into. So when we walked into the building, we kind of already knew what was going on. We already knew where we were going. We already knew what to expect. And we kind of walked through it like pros because it was all laid out. It was explained. It was clear on the website, so that when we walked in on Sunday morning, it was like we'd already been there. And we were able to check in our kids, and everything went smooth. And we walked into the sanctuary and sat down, right before worship was starting. We were like, wow, that was amazing. We were calm. We were chilled out. We were ready to engage with worship. We weren't super high anxious. It wasn't stressful trying to figure it all out. It was very relaxing, very chill, and we loved it. Now, we didn't love the church, and we ended up going somewhere else, but their guest experience was great. And so I kind of want to walk through for you a couple different things you need to do on your website, and they're super simple. They're not hard. They're just a matter of building these one or two pages to increase the engagement of your guests by decreasing the ambiguity, taking away all the questions. What is this? What is this? What is this? Where do we go? How does this look? All that. Take away all of that. And they will walk in, guests will walk into your sanctuary ready to fully engage in worship, in the sermon, in the community, and everything else. And that's what we want, right? That's exactly what we want. Is we want people ready to engage, not anxious, not exhausted, not worn out, not ready to go grab breakfast after they drop their kids off and skip church altogether. We want them to walk through that experience and enjoy it so that when they sit down in sanctuary, they're ready to go. So here we go. Okay, so the number one thing that you need to do on your website for guests is have a map of the facility and do that with pictures. Now, I realize this may seem very, I don't know, not flashy or not pretty or whatever. But quite honestly, there are lots of different types of people who come to your church. And if it's somebody like me, I'm a little bit more type A. I like to know what I'm getting into. I like to have some structure and a plan before I go in. And so if I had a map, so if I went to a church I was thinking about attending and I went to, the guest experience, if you have a little tag on the front of your website, it says, if you're planning to attend service with us this Sunday, go to this page, or check out our guest welcome page, or whatever, however you want to phrase that. And they click on that and they go to a page that's, got the very simple welcome, really look forward to seeing you this Sunday. Here's some information you need to know to make your experience a lot smoother and enjoyable, or whatever, however you want to phrase that. And then right after that, there is a map of the church building, not the whole building. I don't need a whole blueprint, but enough to show me, where am I parking? If you have a specific guest area to park in, where is that? So when I pull into the parking lot, or even when I'm approaching the church, I know which entrance of the parking lot I need to go in if there's multiple entrances. And once I enter that parking lot, where do I go to park? Because a lot of times that's not clearly defined or shown. So when I click on there, I go to that page, there's a map that shows me what I need to do. When I walk in this door, where do I go for kids? If I walk in this door, where do I go for check-in? Or where do I go for information? Or where do I go for coffee if you offer that? Where do I go to get to the sanctuary? How do I get there? And a lot of guests, a lot of people, they don't want to dilly-dally around in the lobby. They don't want to hang out and get to know a lot of people. They want to be able to walk in the door and make it to the sanctuary or make it to the kids area as quickly as possible. And so help me understand where I need to go. So that's the first thing. Have a page or have a map with some sort of arrows of direction or even labels of rooms so that I know where I'm going. Now, if you want to go next level on that, do a video walkthrough. So you can have the map and have directions and all that, but along with that, do a video walkthrough, whether it's your kids pastor or your lead, you as a lead pastor, or whoever is doing that. Just a simple walkthrough. Hey, so glad you're thinking about coming here to us. So glad you're coming to visit with us on this Sunday. Let me walk you through exactly what that experience is going to look like. And you walk it, and the camera follows you, and you say, we're going to go down this hallway, and right here is the kids area. And when you get here, this is what you're going to do. And once you do this, and once you hand off your kids, you're going to meet this person, this person, this person. And once you do that, then you can make your way over here to our, coffee bar where you can get your own coffee, and here's some refreshments and whatever that experience looks like for you. Do a video walkthrough, because once I watch that video and walk through that experience, I know what I'm doing. I know when I walk in the door of your church, I know exactly where I need to go, exactly what I need to do. My anxiety goes way low. And quite honestly, I'm probably more apt to walk in and meet a few people because I'm not spending all my time figuring out where to go. I already know that. So now when somebody comes up and says, hey, how are you doing? I'm not all flustered and standoffish, because I know where I need to be and I'm not trying to figure those things out. So that's the first thing. Have a map of the facility with pictures if you can. Take a picture of what the coffee bar looks like, what's kids area look like, all that. And if you want to go next level, do a video walkthrough. That's the first thing. The second thing that would take the anxiety away from your guests as they come in, what you need to put on your website, is a rundown of what they can expect as a part of your Sunday morning experience. What will people be dressed like? How long is the service? I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I've walked in, I come from a Pentecostal background. And so, I walk into services and I don't know what I'm going to get. I may have a 30-minute service. I may have an hour and a half service. I have no idea. Now the benefit is we have a lot of churches now who have their services online, so I can go there and I can click on the link and see the service, and I can see how long is that service or how long is the sermon. If the sermon is an hour, I can pretty much figure out I'm going to be there an hour and a half because of worship. And so if you put that in there, though, you take away that ambiguity. So that way you don't have people who are sitting there. If you're out, if your service is more than an hour, they're not sitting there at the hour mark being like, we have to go. And you have guests standing up during, the end of your service, during the altar call, or, during your last point in the sermon. They're not standing up and leaving, but they're staying through because they understood how long they were going to need to be there and how long service was going to be. So a rundown of just what they're going to get. What does kids programming look like? If they have kids, what were their kids' experience? Are they going to play games the whole time? Is there going to be a Bible story? Are they broken up into rooms with individual teachers? Are they all together in one big kids' church room? What does that experience look like? Help them understand, because as parents handing off kids, that's the most anxious part of this whole thing going to church. We're not sure who we're handing our kids off to, and we're not sure exactly what that experience is going to be like. And when we pick them back up and we sit in the car and we're like, how was church? The last thing we want to hear is, that was boring, or that was terrible, or we didn't do anything. Now, I know my kids, they sometimes say, we didn't do anything, and that's not true. But if I go to your website and I see what the kids programming looks like, and they say, we didn't do anything, I'll be like, now wait a second. Did you do a Bible story? Oh yeah, I guess we did that. And I am equipped now to ask questions about what the experience was like, so then I can engage my kids about the service and really get their feedback on what it was. And so just ask yourself questions. What can I provide about the Sunday morning experience that's going to help people know what they're going to experience before they come in? One of the big questions is, what does everybody wear? Is everybody wearing suits? Are they wearing, and quite honestly, if you have a lot of unchurched people who are coming into your service and they haven't been there for a long time, a lot of them, that's what they still think. They still think everybody's going to be in a suit, and they're going to dress up as best they can, but they're going to be uncomfortable. But if you put on your website, this is what pretty much everybody's casual, everybody's, business casual, or everybody's, wearing their beach attire because they're going to the beach afterwards, whatever the case is, put that on there so people know what they're getting into. Again, take away the ambiguity to increase the level of engagement. The third thing is an online welcome form. Now, I've seen some churches, now we've all had them, the welcome cards, they're in the back of the seat, or we hand them out, or they get them at the information desk. And I'll be honest with you, one of the worst things for us as parents is trying to fill these forms out the entire time that we are getting ready for the service. If you're wanting to relieve the anxiety of parents when they come, take away that registration process. Let them do that online before they ever get there. They can do it the night before, they can do it the morning of, whatever. But there's the opportunity for them to fill all that information out before they ever get there. And there are programs that are out there. Planning Center Online is one where you can embed your online check-in form right there onto your website, and they can fill that out before they ever even walk in the door. And so, but put those online forms on, because so for me and my wife, this is how it usually worked. We would walk in, we'd have all of our kids, we'd go to the kids check-in, and now we have to fill out, if they're paper forms, sometimes we had to fill out 3 different forms, which was just took forever. And it's asking so much information, and I get it. For some of that, it's just security purposes. But if we're being honest, a lot of it is because we as church leaders, as pastors, we want that information so we can follow up later. But I'll be honest with you, whittle it down to just the necessary security information you need and get the rest of the information later. Get that later, because as parents, it's a long process filling out those forms. Or, there are a couple of churches that we went to, they had somebody sitting on the other side of the desk, and they were asking us questions. Okay, child 1, what's his name? What's his birthday? What's his allergies? Like and we're just conveying all of that. And our name is Party Cooper, so it's long and it's difficult. And so we're spelling it out again and again and again. And it's just, again, if any way that can be shortened down and put online onto your website before they ever get there, the better that experience is going to be. And that includes just the regular, guest form that you have. Let them fill that out before they ever get there. Because for me and my wife, we'd fill that out. We'd fill that all that information out, and then we'd drop our kids off, and we would walk into the sanctuary, and either on the way at the information desk or a greeter, or or we'd get in the service and it would be on the chair or it'd be in the seat back in front of us. It would be another form that we have to fill out, and asking for information, and we were done. We didn't fill out the form most of the time because we'd already filled out the form for our kids, and we didn't want to fill out another form, and worship is beginning and we wanted to engage in that, and so we just didn't fill it out. And so what I'm saying is take those forms and put them online and allow people to fill them out beforehand. Now, not everybody will. Some people will come in and not know that there was an online form, or they will not have filled it out and come in. That's fine. Again, if you can whittle that process down, great. But the more important thing is, if you can put it online, it takes away, or it gives the option to fill it out. So it takes away the anxiety when they come. And so if you can do those things, it's going to change the game. So let me go through them again. Number one, have a map of the facility. And if you can do a map of the facility with pictures, or a video walkthrough and a video walkthrough. If you can do all of that, that would be great, because you're going to hit all kinds of different types of people who like to learn and figure things out different ways. So a map of the facility with pictures and or a video walkthrough. The second thing is a rundown of what they can expect. What does a kids program look like? What does the length of the service look like? What's the worship style? What's the service atmosphere? Those types of things. What is a experience look like coming to your church? That's the second thing. And then the third thing is take your forms, your online or your welcome form, your kids check-in form. Take those, put them online, and allow those to be filled out beforehand, so that when they get there, they're just checking their kids in, handing them off, and heading into the sanctuary. If you can do those three things, and you can do that on one page of your website, just have a little button on the front page, on your home page, up in the corner, or right there in the middle, guest welcome page, or if you're planning to attend, however you phrase it, so they can click on that, go to a one page that has all this information, and that would take away so much the anxiety, so much the frustration, and simplify the entire experience for your guests before they get there. Remember, the goal is to decrease the ambiguity, take away the questions, simplify the experience. When you do that, engagement goes up. Families, parents, single people, young marrieds, they will walk in with a lot of their questions already answered, and not a lot of anxiety on what to expect and what to do and where to go and how do I do this and where's the sanctuary. All that's taken away. If you can do that, your engagement will go way up. And quite honestly, you'll have more guests come, because there were some churches that we just didn't go to because we couldn't get a handle on the church. We didn't know what we were getting into. We had no idea what the church was about, what they were like. The website was pretty abysmal and didn't give us any idea of what their service, even what their sanctuary was like. And we just chose not to go because we just thought, I don't know if they have a great kids program. I don't even know if they have a kids program. We said, you know what? We're just not going to try it because we just don't know what we're getting into. And that's what people want nowadays. The days of somebody waking up on a Sunday morning and being like, hey, I feel like I need to go to church and I'm just going to go to the church down the street. Like that still happens, but most people don't do that. Most people, they go to a website, they check out the church, they check out the service, they check out a video. They do that for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they decide if they're going to come or not. Don't forget to get your free guide to build your website in 30 days, your free 30-day website guide. And again, you can get that by going to brandonpartycooper.com/30-day website. It's free. Download it right there, and you can start today. Step by step, I walk you through step by step. Day 1, do this. Day 2, do this. Day 3, do this. Walk you all the way through 30 days. You have your website up, running, ready to go, and working for you, not just sitting there doing nothing. The idea is that the website is designed to get guests to come, to engage your community, to engage your congregation, to equip them, disciple them, and develop them. And so, again, go to brandonpartycooper.com/30-day website, get your free guide, and get started today on building your engaging website in 30 days. All right. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here, and I will look for you in the next episode.